Hey everybody, my name's Rebekah. I come from the Piconee First Nation and I currently reside on the Stalo First Nation. Today I'm going to show you how I make my beaded orange shirt pins. So to start, you're going to want to gather some supplies. So the first thing you want to get is a needle. So the needle is size 10. I use the GoldenEye needle. And then the thread you're going to want to get is a size D. I have the Nymo in white. You can get other colors, but I just prefer the white. I also have some pliers just in case I need to yank a little bit harder on the thread. I also have some really sharp scissors. I have size 10 black beads and size 10 orange beads. I also have my felt. So the felt is the quilting felt that you can get at a craft store. I got mine from Michael's. And then also the vinyl piece. So the vinyl is a choice. You can put the orange if you want to use black on the back. You can also use hide as well, but just know that the hide will be quite more difficult. It is prone using hide. Sometimes the beading needles will break. So the vinyl is kind of a nice way to, especially if you're starting out. I also use glue. The one that I'm using today is the multi-purpose white glue. It's non-toxic. It's specifically wood glue. It works really well. I've had really great success with it. I know kind of in the beading community, 6000 is kind of the go-to, but it is a little bit toxic. I'm not a huge fan of it. If I do use it, I try to use it only outdoors. And then also a pin. So make sure you got a pin. You can use a safety pin if you're kind of stuck. I got these pins as well from Michael's. You can also pick them up at a beading store that's near you. And yeah, let's begin. Hey there. Okay, so now that we're ready to start, you want to get your thread. And again, this is a size D Nymo in white. You don't have to get the white thread, you could get a different color, but I like to use the white. So once you do get your thread ready to go, kind of a trick to help you when you're going to thread is to cut the thread on an angle, and I mean like a really heavy angle, because that way you're going to get this really good point when you're going to try to thread it through the needle. So another thing is when you get this through here, flip it around and then pull. This might take a little while. I've actually seen people take up to like 40 minutes and plus to try to get this through because as you can see, it's incredibly small. So take your time. You know, if you need to step away from it, come back to it. So what you're going to do is, so you have your needle on this end and you're going to take the two ends of the thread and you're just going to double knot it. You can double knot it a couple of times. I like to do things in threes, so that looks good. So I have a template that I use. It's just a t-shirt that I printed off online. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut around this, and then I'm going to trace it onto my felt. All right, so now we have our felt, we have our cutout piece. Now I'm gonna put it down and give myself a little bit of room for this edge here because eventually I'm gonna come through here and I will cut along here, but I'm not gonna do that right now. So I'm gonna give myself a little bit of space on this end, a little bit of space on that end. I have something that's like this. Now, sometimes people like to bead onto the paper. I'm not a huge fan of that doing myself, so I'm just gonna put this down here and I'm gonna trace the t-shirt onto the felt. Some people really like to freehand this and draw their own shirt, and you're more than welcome to. I just like to do this just for the sake of accuracy so that when I'm beading, it's symmetrical on either side. But so after you trace, you're left with something that looks like this, and we're ready to get our beads together. All right, so I got my beading mat here, got my felt or my vinyl piece, which I'll use later, and so I've got some orange beads, which I'll put out later on, but I'm just going to focus on the black. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be flat stitching all around the edge, and following that tracing that I just made. So I don't like to work with a lot of beads out at a time. I like to just have a few. So we'll put some black beads ready, and now we have the needle here. And what we're going to do is, so I'm going to be referring to the front and the back. And so the front is the part where the tracing is, and then the back is the part where there's no tracing. So I like to take my needle and just pick a corner, any area. I kind of stick away from the top piece because there is a little bit of curve that happens up here. So I'm probably going to start right here in this right armpit. And you're going to go from the back to the front, and then you're going to pull that out. Now, because the thread right now is so long, you want to go really, really slow. You don't want to rush this. I'm going to pick up 4 beads to start. So we got 4 beads on, pull that through. And what you're going to do is you're going to lay this down just like that. And when you lay it down, you're going to place your needle directly in front. You're not going to squish it. You want to let the beads have room to breathe. But you're going to just put it somewhere right above there, right above that last bead, and you're going to pull through. And now you have them laying really nicely. And you would think that, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to come up and add more, 4 more, and keep going. But no, it's not that quite simple. So what we want to do is we want to go up between the second and the third bead, from the back to the front. You're going to pull. And as you can see, the thread does get knotted pretty easily. So you want to pull slow so it looks like this. And then you're going to take this top thread and pull it between the second and the third bead. And the reason that I like to do this is that it tacks it down and it prevents those beads from wobbling around. So then you're going to pull this through. See that piece right there wants to kind of go through. Come back up and make sure it goes between the second and the third bead. And this guy is not cooperating today, but that's okay. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now we have that. Now we're gonna go up. I like to go up on the inside of the thread, and I'll explain why later. Go on the inside of that shirt, and then you're gonna push it through that bead here. The very last bead, the 4th bead, and pull that through. And now, if you see, this isn't wobbly anymore. This is gonna stay straight. And because we went through that last bead, when we add the other beads on here, everything's gonna lay nice and flat. So then you take that process. I'm gonna go through it one more time with you, and then we'll speed it up so you don't have to sit here for the next couple of minutes. So again, we're gonna lay it down flat. Go straight through, front to back, pull slowly. And then we're gonna tack it down between the middle of the third and the second bead, and then front to back, pull through. On the inside of the shirt, we're going to go up between the last beads, pull through, and go through that last bead. All right. And there we go. We got the first start. So I'm going to go and do this for the entire shirt. So I thought I'd just quickly show you. So I got the bottom piece here. So if you come up and you're ready to do the sleeve, a couple of people I've noticed have said, well, how do we go down and up and around? Now you could add a couple beads here, or you can just go straight up. So if you go straight up, or you can kind of curve it a little bit. So I'm actually going to put a few more beads on. So you could do something like this, or you could go kind of down and around, but I think honestly, like, this one's gonna look just as good. And we're gonna come in down and tack these. And as you can see, I'm kind of like pushing out just a little bit. It kind of gives it a slight curve. It's not going to be super noticeable, but there we go. And so you have that, that's the edge here. Now, some people could, if they wanted to, you can put a couple more black beads up here to make it look like there's a little bit of a, the sleeve here, but honestly, like, I really just kind of like it more simple. So to do, like, say you're pivoting on a corner here. So I'll show you how to do that. So you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go back up, go through the last bead, and it's just going to look like that. Just like that. Okay, so now we're coming up to the curve. So I'm just going to put on 7 beads here. Okay, so you're going to go to the other side. So you're going to hold that down, go right in front of the bead, pull it down, and now you're just going to push it down with your finger. Go to the other side. push that down. So that's how you're going to get that curve to form. So I've finished the outline here, and I've just added the 2 beads on the inside, so you can kind of see what it looks like if you wanted to add 2 more on either side to give it more of like a t-shirt look, to really define those sleeves in if you like. This is what it's look like without, and then with. It's totally up to you. I kind of like it with it, so I think I'm gonna stick another couple and go from there. All right, so now we have the outline complete. So we're done now with the black beads. Now we're going to introduce the orange beads. Again, not too huge of a pile, but just enough. And so there's a couple ways to kind of do this. So you can either go around the entire perimeter and just keep going around and around and around until you get to the center, or you can go in straight lines. So for this, I think what I'm gonna do is, I think I'm just gonna do the straight lines this time. Sometimes I like to go up and down, sometimes I like to go across, but for this one, I think I'm just gonna go top to bottom, and then I'll fill in the sleeves afterwards. Okay, so for this, I'm gonna flip the t-shirt upside down. I'm gonna go into this far corner here. Again, we're going back to front. Gonna pick up some beads. And for these, I'm gonna add more beads. I'm gonna lay it down. Gonna push as much as I can to the top. Now I'm going to go through and tack every 3 or 4th bead. All right, so now I got my first line here. I'm going to go all the way until I fill in the entire thing. So I just wanted to mention, I know this I struggled with this when I first started, is to really give your beads some room, so to breathe. So you don't want to pack in a ton. So as you can see here, like for the end piece, I could put like 3 or 4 beads. If I put 4, I kind of feel like it might be a little bit too cramped. So I always say, like, let your beads breathe for sure. So if you see this, before I put the final one down, you know, it looks like I might have a little bit of room for 1 bead. And if you notice, your beads are all going to be a little bit different sizes. So some beads are going to be a bit smaller, some beads are going to be a bit thicker, and so I'm going to choose a really small one here. There we go. So see how there's like no bunching, or there's no beads being crowded? So that's what you kind of want. You want to make sure that none of the beads are super crowded. And that they don't bunch up. And if they do, then I would take that back out, and then I would take out a couple beads. So make sure they're all lying nicely, nothing's being pushed out. And there we go. Okay, so before I move on, I just wanted to come across, so I have in here a bit of a knot. This is really common, and I don't want you to freak out once you get it. What I like to do is put my needle through the knot and kind of go back and forth against my finger. And as you can see, the knot will loosen. So try that before you start cutting or, you know, tying things off and rethreading things. So you stick your needle through and then just rub back and forth. All right, so now I've completely filled this part of the shirt up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to continue this vertical pattern to fill in the sleeves. And then after that, what I'll do is I'll cut this out, and I'll show you then. All right, so as you can see, this is what it looks like with the sleeve with the vertical pattern. So it's just going to continue on, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue on this side as well to finish it off. Okay, so now we're left with the shirt that's completely done. If you take a look at the back, quite a little bit of a spaghetti mess back there. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna cut all the way around here, and I'm gonna say, like, err on the side of caution. You really don't want to cut too close to the beads, and you don't want to do it blindly either. The reason I say this is because if you flip around the back, if you accidentally cut one of these lines here, then that's going to unravel some of these beads, and then we're going to have to do some repair work, and I'd really like not to do that. So I'm going to say just make a cut, check the back, make the cut again, check the back, just go as slow as you need to. Again, there's no reason to go really fast through this, so I'm just gonna look around the back. I'm gonna actually keep this on as well. You don't have to if you want to tie it out. If you can, I'm just gonna hold it down away. So we're gonna just, okay, so I made a couple cuts. Look around the back, looking good. So this is why when I said I like to put my threads towards the inside and not towards the outside, is because I really wanted to keep this nice and sharp. So it's for this process that at the beginning when we're tacking them down, I want to keep it really close. Okay, so we're gonna go around the corner, making sure things are good. See, that's pretty close right there. I want to stay away. And then you can cut off the excess. Again, kind of going back. Oops. So that's what it looks like. I'm gonna look in the back. So that looks pretty good. So I was really close around here, a little bit closer than I like to be around here. But yeah, so then once we have that done, then we're ready to take the vinyl piece. We're gonna flip it around, and I'm gonna center my pin here. And at this point, we're going to take that pen again, and we're going to trace. All right, so then we're left with this. Somebody yesterday, they said that it looked like to them a loaf of bread, and I thought that was kind of funny. I've also heard that it looks like a mushroom. So then we're going to go in, and this time we're going to cut right on the line. So now we're left with this duplicate, and we're going to place them on top. So this is kind of where I want to check and make sure everything looks nice, everything's nice and flush. And then I'm going to go get the pin. Hold it down. So you're going to put a little dot on either side of the fastener pieces. And then lift the pen up. You're going to help be something like this. You're going to connect those two dots together. And I like to fold this on top of each other so that they're equal. And then I'm going to cut just to that line. Same thing down here. I'm going to take this, cut it to that line. And there we go. So now we got two openings on either side. Okay, so at this point you have these two slits that are cut. So what you're going to do is you're going to open your pin up, and you're going to place your pin through the bottom of the shirt, through that bottom slit. You're going to take your fastener, you're going to pop that right through. So now we have the pin ready to go. And at this point, I'm just going to close it up, and the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dot of glue in here, and I'm going to glue that down together so that those pieces are together and they're ready for me to either sew this up or I'm going to bead the edge. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and bead the edge. So remember this string that I have that I've been keeping on. I did that intentionally because I want to bead these two pieces together. So what you're going to do is you're going to start, you have your piece of string out here. If you take a look, it's kind of sandwiched between. So I'm going to go through the piece of the vinyl going towards the back. So remember, the back is the vinyl piece, now the front is the beaded piece. You're going to pick up 3 beads. And you're going to go about a bead's length away from the front of the white felt through the vinyl piece. You're going to pull that through. And now this bead right here that's the closest to you, you're going to go up through that bead and pull slightly. Okay, so now that's the first step. So that's the 3 beads on pulling up through the last one. Now I'm going to take 2 beads about a beaded length away. I'm going to push through the vinyl and the felt with your 2 beads, pull that through, go up the bead that's closest to the thread. And pull. And now we have the start of the edge. So we're going to keep doing this process all the way through. I'll show you again. So another 2 beads. So about a bead's length away through the felt and the vinyl. Pull this through and up the bead that's closest to the thread. So it kind of forms a little bit of like a triangle. So I'm going to continue this all the way through. All right, so now that we're kind of coming to the very end, you can kind of see how there's a little gap here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to grab 1 bead, and then I'm going to go down that very first bead that I started with. And this is going to connect the 2 together so that we now have a seamless edge. So I'm going to flip this around here, kind of go to the front. And how I'm going to end this, so different people have different ways, but this has kind of always worked for me. I'm going to go through the back here, and I'm going to go back to the front. I'm going to leave, I'm going to keep going back and forth. I'm going to hold on to this loop. I'm going to go to the back and go through the loop. And then I'm going to yank that together. So then I'm not going to cut it here because I don't want like a piece of thread that's just like sitting there. I'm going to go back to the back. I'm going to go through the back here. Make sure all of that gets through. And now I'm going to cut. So now we have a nice finished edged, and we also have our beaded pin. So, and like doing the beads around here is a little extra, but you can also just like whip stitch around and not have the edging. I personally do really like the edging. Sometimes I'll do them without the edging and just like, you know, whip stitch them together, and that's okay. But for this one, I decided to put the edge. So thank you so much for watching. The other thing is to remember to do this with a good heart and a good mind. If you need to put this down, take a break, you know, and come back to it, that's perfectly fine. Take some deep breaths. It can get frustrating, especially when you get knots. You know, and that's okay. That's all a part of the process. But just come back to it when you're feeling better and continue on. Because remember, you're putting all of that good, those good thoughts and those good feelings into your piece. So whoever you're gifting this to, that they're going to take that with them. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you at my future workshops.